when we talk about running a business in the state, we're literally the worst state for business.
We are the worst state.
We're a small business trying to make it.
When I first started and I wanted to put a logo, I had this nice big building. I was like, wow, I'm going to get a nice big F&F form and function sign. It could be huge. It would be lit up. And then the town, whoa, that can only be 10% of this square footage of this.
So here you are providing jobs.
And here you are trying to
taxes.
just create simple visibility. I'm not like shooting bat signals into the sky and the lights and everything going. It's not like Vegas in front of my building.
Yeah.
Right? Just so somebody driving by can actually see it.
So I used to like writing books, and video kind of replaced that.
Yeah.
Kind of like, video replaced the radio star.
Yeah.
Video replaced the book, because if I sit down and write a book, who's going to read it? Number one. And number two, it's way easier to make a video about it and someone can watch it.
Yeah, it's true.
And
you can have fun with it, and you can edit it, and you can clip it, and you can...
Yeah, and you can...
All kinds of fun stuff.
You can distribute it. And that's when, in, the past 6 or 7 months, I got to a point where, and I guess maybe everyone gets to the point, like I was like, I wouldn't say I'm good just doing what I'm doing, but I got in I don't want to say a rut, but just like just level. Like I was like, I don't feel like doing any podcasts. I wasn't excited about doing podcasts, which I love to do, which is why I definitely wanted to do this. Yeah. I wasn't excited about writing a book. And it's not that I was depressed, because I was still doing my stuff. I was still having fun, but I just got in that, it kind of came after like no legacy. And now I'm like, all right, like, I don't want to be one of those people who work 60 hours a week like I thought I did before. It was like a shift in my psyche. And I was like making lists of, okay, this is why I want to do this is why I want to, just to get myself like out of that funk, maybe.
Yeah.
It was. But it wasn't until I was in the hospital and had the heart surgery where it got me out of it.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people that believe that you put things in your path to direct you in a way you want to go. And since it was a congenital defect in my heart, when I was in spirit, I was like, let me be born with that. So later on, if I get into that rut, it can switch me out of it.
I mean, those are the contracts we make before we are, right? That's that principle. The contracts we made before we came.
Because it gives you perspective.
Right.
So getting, out of the hospital and doing even like lifting now, like I lost muscle, right?
Yeah,
and I tell people,
now you look at yourself and go, I have a goal.
100%. And I was just going through the flow. But it's like how you get older and your perspective changes on what's important to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that one.
And you might not have a legacy after you're gone, like maybe a little bit, but it's the people that you impact now. And it was a good reminder for me to do that. I had a client come in, she's 80. She's like, I just want to thank you for helping save my life.
Those are the greatest stories in the world.
I had that. I had another lady come in today, say like, very thank you so much. Mm-hmm. And you're paying me.
I know.
You know what I'm saying?
And they're thanking you. I had a little old lady that has really just started doing PT 2 weeks ago. Very grumpy, like, what am I doing here kind of person, right? And within 2 weeks, they left. They had a session this morning. And, we had like a movie on in the background that was like silly. We were watching Friends Friday. And that's all. I was like, Friends Friday Day, just put Friends on in the background and everybody loves it.
Yeah, sure.
And we had just changed the board that has all our trivia on the side, and she's reading the trivia and then she's giggling over Friends. And I was like, all right, your modalities are done. Like, we took the ice off. We're all set for today. This is so-and-so. And they got up and went, you guys really are fantastic. I am so happy I ended up here. I'll see you next week. And she got up. And I was like, we were like, son of a gun. Like, and for 2 weeks, I was dancing on eggshells. Like, oh, God, I hope I'm not messing up with it. Like, this lady unhappy. I really hope I'm doing well.
Yeah.
At the same time, sometimes we're really busy. Sometimes at the flow, like, I'm like, I hope I'm not. She seemed like I don't want to intimidate an older person. Loved it. She was having a blast. I just didn't see it until they expressed it back to you with that thank you.
Yeah, and a lot of times you don't see it because you're worried about 13 other things.
That's fair.
And number one, that's what makes people a good business owner. But I think when you're in the healthcare field, especially a physical therapist who spends so much time with the patient, probably more than any other healthcare provider that I can think of, you want to have that rapport. You want to have that interaction.
Yeah, and that coming way back home to where we started with like entrepreneurism and when my saying like why I wanted to stay small. That's why. Like, we have such a tight-knit family of employees. Everybody feels like you're part of the family when you walk in. There's banter, there's laughter. You know, it's not sterile and quiet. And
Yes.
people have to work hard, yeah, but I'm entertaining you. I'm giving you something to goof off to. At the same time, I'm goofing with, you know, my PTA who did something silly over there and forgot something, and everybody's giggling at him. And everybody chimes in, and patients chime in, and they bring him something he needed. And all of a sudden, I'm like, wow, it's just like a giant group of people, you know, happy together.
And that comes from the top down.
And that comes from the top down,
Yeah.
and you work hard to cultivate it. But then it just starts happening. And to your legacy point, I do know that if I wasn't in that building for a period of time, that would deteriorate. That would
100%.
not be there.
Yes.
Because that's the thing that I sought out to do.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think that's what makes people more successful than somebody else. Like, your skills can be the same, but it's how you make people feel.
Yeah.
You know, which is why if we're just talking about the fitness aspect, so like everybody who has a gold tag over here has been there for more than a year for fitness.
Yeah.
That doesn't usually happen. You know, people do fitness.
They'll drift in and out after so many months of classes, and
they'll do Zumba, they'll do CrossFit.
Yeah.
So, but then for us, like, why do we do the gold magnet? And number one, to acknowledge you, but to also give you status.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and for us to look at it and be like, everyone on that has been over a year. So when someone comes in, you know, I don't like working out. Listen, people stay here a long time. Why? Yes, my workouts are great. They're good. They work. But you can get a similar workout somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, when it comes down to it, they're good.
You came here for the deal and for the workout, and you ended up buying the community.
100%. Yeah, because the way you're going to stretch my hamstrings might be a little different than the guy down the street.
Right.
But you're still stretching my hamstrings.
Still doing the job.
But I like Garino, and I like what he stands for. And
Right.
You know, and I think what's a little harder for you is a lot of PT places are like bundling up now.
To my point, and I say, you know, we've been going through our struggles. A lot of changes in the PT world have led to retention, right? Ortho groups.
Yes, having their own PTs.
They have their own PTs, but locking up tighter. Like, nobody goes out, like we refer to ourselves. Groups being bought up, right? We've got one major group in the Northeast, in Rhode Island in particular, whose major job is buy up small PT businesses. And it's not even them. That's the biggest group. They're owned by yet another group down in Louisville, right? And so I'm like, it's just like becomes this monster corporation. And, you know, this happened to our old workplace that you and I both started at there. When they got bought, hunky-dory, but now it's centralized. This is how we're going to save this company and overall money, right? Front office lady, how long have you been here? 20 years? You're out.
Yeah.
When am I out? Tomorrow. You know? Billing lady, 20 years? How many clinics you've been handling? You're out. They don't care.
Yeah, it's all about the dollar.
It's about the dollar. We have it centralized. Yeah, we're probably going to lose a little in chasing down in reimbursements, but it's so big it doesn't matter.
Yes, and I think for me, that's what's wrong with business.
Yes.
Right.
It's monopolizing.
Yeah.
Monopolizing it's great for the one guy at the top of the pyramid. For the rest of them that are working their tails off to feed that person, it's horrible.
Yeah.
Right? And then the people who patron, because they have nowhere else to go,
Correct.
suffer the most.
And I think that's where, like, if you can stand out, like,
On
they'll
your
make
own.
the extra
Right.
the drive. You know, I don't know if you've seen any stats though, and like, you know, because I'm in a business group, but like, Rhode Island is like ranked 50 out of 50 for business.
Woohoo!
You know what I'm saying? Like, so when we talk about running a business in the state,
Yeah.
we're literally the worst state for
Yes,
business.
we are the worst state for business.
I wonder if you put us in number one. I don't know what number one is, but if you put us in number one, like,
How would we do? How would we fare?
that's what I'm saying. You'd have to think better.
Right. Well, I would think that the systems around us would be designed such that, you know, all the effort you put in provides success
Yes.
without all those pitfalls and all those roadblocks and all those
100%.
things that happen.
Yeah. We put the signs out here on the road, and the city complained like there was too many signs because, you know, the whole building. I get that. Like, and again, it actually looks better without the signs, but like, we're a small business trying to make it.
Right. You need to be seen. Right. How are you going to be seen if you can't put up a sign? I know.
And as a business owner, if you're the commerce guy or whatever, come to the business and be like, listen, like, I want to help you, not take your visibility away.
Right. Well, when I first started, right, and I wanted to put a logo, I had this nice big building, right, and my landlord was like, "Do whatever you want. It's your building now. I mean, you're leasing it, but do whatever you want. I was like, wow, I'm going to get a nice big F&F form and function sign. It's going to be huge. It'll be lit up, and Route 4 is right there, and you'll see it. And then the town, whoa, that can only be 10% of this square footage of this. I'm like, no, it's this big. Are you kidding me? All right, what if I put a sign right by the roadside? And then it was like, whoa, you can only be right here or right here. You could put it on the back of your land, and you could put a billboard up for all we care. And I'm like,
so here you are providing jobs.
Right. And here you are
Paying
trying to
taxes.
just create simple visibility. I'm not like shooting bat signals into the sky and blinking
Have like
lights.
a 20-foot inflatable.
Right, 20-foot inflatable with happy, wacky, waving arm guy. And the lights and everything going. It's not like Vegas in front of my building.
Yeah.
Right? It's just so somebody driving by can actually see it.
Yes.
It's not a blight, right? I don't have neighbors complaining. It's just a building.
Yeah, and it's so wild to me where, like, if that's your job, or even the city, like, you'd want businesses to come in.
Right. I mean, look in New York City, for God's sakes. Times Square, like, they're the ones who need in the middle of, like, just a little bit of an ordinance.
Yeah, not
a seizure when you walk down the road.
Not like Rhode Island.
Yeah, here we are at the exact opposite, where it's like, dude, lighten up a little bit.
Yeah, like, because you're 10 feet over the allotment.
Calm down.
If you could send one message to your younger self, but it can only be 5 words long.
Ooh, come on! This is things you have to think of for a week on.
Listen, I know I'm putting you on the spot.
It's awful.
I'll give you plus or minus on the 5 words. It could be a sentence or 2
words. 3 hours later. What would I tell how much younger?
It's up to you.
Up to me. Everything's up to me. My younger self. Now here's the conundrum. I know exactly what I would say. I already have it, but I already know it's a wasted endeavor. So I would probably want to not say it because my younger self would never listen.
Okay.
That's caveat to this, number 1, right? If I could go to my younger self, I'd probably go to myself in like 6th grade, beginning of middle school, right when it feels like all of those things happen to you in adolescence. Just be your fucking self.
Yes, I love that.
That's what I would say. And I know that I would not be like, fucking old man, you're not going to talk to you. I know I wouldn't listen to even if I knew it was me, I'd be like, that's me. And this is the one thing I have to say to me, I still wouldn't listen.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like, I peaked in elementary school. Like I was a man. And then when you go to middle school,
Is this your memories when you
listen?
I wish I was in 4th grade again.
Maybe Mike Devaney was the man, but I was definitely the second man. But, I was like, we used to play punch ball, like kickball with your hand.
Yeah.
I was sliding on the cement, into the bases, doing splits, all that stuff. Had good grades. But going into middle school, I really liked in elementary school, I really liked the smaller classes. And you knew everybody. There's two classrooms of 6th graders.
Right. It was
you knew everybody, and you'd been with them forever.
Up to that point.
And then going to middle school, it was like, wow, look at all these kids. Now, some of them I knew who didn't go to school because of sports.
Right.
But, you had some people with 6 foot tall, maybe some had beards already and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it was a big change.
It's a huge change. And then you're going through puberty, you got acne.
Yep.
I get acne now. I'm like, wow, I'm young. But like you go through all that, and then now I always had my friends, but I felt I became more sheltered than I was when I was in elementary school in 6th grade. I had 6th grade, yeah,
absolutely.
And I think that it shaped me in who I became. So right, but to your point, it might have been like, hey, like you'll be fine, you'll get through this.
Yeah.
Everybody likes you.
I mean, I was so pressured by myself and by growing up in an old Italian family. You got to do everything right. You got to do everything right, or it's all over. It's all over. Keep your hair trimmed nice. And then my dad was like, "Music, you don't want to waste your time on music. You need to study. You need to play soccer." This was regimented. Otherwise, you're going nowhere. And you're little, so you're like, "Son of a gun, I'm going nowhere. I'm going to put that guitar away." But at night, like when it was after dinner and you went upstairs, I looked around and be like, putting that stereo on. And I played my rock music and I was like, I love this.
Guns N' Roses.
Not at first, right? You got to discover these things.
Gotcha.
Right? But in other words, you discovered you loved something, but you didn't really want to show it because, one, you had to keep your head on the straight and narrow, right? from the family side. And then when you got to school, I liked rock music, and I was starting to like heavier rock music, but nobody else. They were, pop music ruled.
Sure.
And so I was like, oh, yeah, I like that too, but I really like this, and there are not that many of us. So you just don't talk about it. Just keep that to yourself. Don't shine on that. For example.
Yeah. Do you think, because I don't have kids right now, but like kids are taught to dream. We were definitely taught that, like, like follow your dream, stuff like that. Are they still instilling that in kids now, or?
They are. I mean, and more than ever, because it comes from us, the people who were dreaming of things, but also being told, yeah, but as long as it's these things, because that's what's going to make you successful.
Okay.
Right? Even old European families anyway. So I want to tell my kids, listen, I thought you'd be a this or that when you grew up. And my oldest one was going in a different direction. I'm like, you know what? You seem to be passionate about this. All right, let's do it.
Yeah, go.
But I still want you to study. Like, it doesn't mean you don't get to, do well in English, because you're not going to go into English teaching.
Right.
You still need to do well in this class. Dad, but I don't know if I'm going to college. I don't care. I still want you to be well-rounded and learned, and you can follow your passion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a problem in that. And likewise, I'm like, do you want your hair long? Yeah, have a blast.
Right.
Just take care of it.
Are you a little jealous?
Oh, of course. I mean, come on. I'm stuck in one hairstyle forever.
It's just interesting to me because I teach children, around children a lot, but I don't see them like in school with their Chromebooks and how it's changed.
Yeah, well, the stressors are different now. Like my boys, for example, my oldest one has a phone, but he doesn't have any apps on it. So he's limited in his social media access significantly, which is preferable for a 13-year-old.
Sure, 100%.
Right? But
I wouldn't have left my room.
Well, anyway, so he's, it's like we're trying to make sure we mitigate a lot of that stuff. He hears the horror stories from some of his friends. Like one of his friends got a pic leaked of himself. I'm like, why did you send that to someone? And then it got sent around. I'm telling him, like, you see what happened to your buddy? He goes, yeah. I'm like, this is why we force these things on you. And he's like, I understand.
Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, I look at the way I'm raising him. Like, I'm telling him, hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? You can do whatever. Let's do whatever. And I see him self-limiting, right? And it's coming not from us. It's coming not from the teachers. His social media access isn't dramatic. He's definitely not a cookie cutter South County, Rhode Island boy. He's very much his individual self, but he's self-limiting. It's peer pressure.
When you say self-limiting, like his ability to do?
No, like his expressing himself.
Okay.
I can see that. And my youngest one even more, way more. He's very self-conscious about what his friends might think.
Yeah,
right?
He's
10.
Yeah. I wasn't that way at 10.
No, and my older one doesn't care quite as much, but he still cares. Yeah. He doesn't want to disappoint or have his friends make fun of him, or, like in his group, he's branding himself.
Yeah.
But he also has some differences.
Sure.
I'm like, be different. He goes, yeah, but no. I'm like, well, you're gonna.
Well, we all want to fit in,
right? You want to fit in. So, where I look at it and like, wow, man, I really wish I just be your fucking self. Tell myself that. And then I'm thinking on it, looking at them, I'm going, I blamed my parents when I was young about a lot, like, oh God, if they only just let me express myself, or like didn't hold me back when I said I really wanted to try certain things. Like, but you know what? Ultimately, I held myself back. And because I see it in the kids still.
Yeah.
Their peer pressures and their desire to like be accepted still rules. It's very difficult to find an individual who at that age understands that they can let their freak flag fly and still be okay.
Yeah, and I mean, just the things that bombarded with today, way more than we had.
Way more than we had.
And I think, I don't know the stat, but like a lot of kids are on anxiety meds.
They are. I mean, I don't know if we should say it's overprescribed or it was just underprescribed when we were younger. I mean, we got a lot of effed up people our age.
Oh,
like I said, we're only the survivors.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
There's a lot that goes into it. I mean, we also didn't have lockdown drills. So to realize, I was like, oh, these kids are on meds. I was like, you talk about RFK, everybody's on anxiety meds, and they're all, I'm like, buddy. I mean, first of all, you look at RFK, it's like, you can't even talk without your voice garbling because you have worms in your brain. But anyway, you look at the poor kids and like, my kids have lockdown drills all the time. It's like another day for them. And then I've seen the procedure for lockdown drills. Holy crap, you'd have a heart attack. I don't know how you don't have PTSD every single day.
You say it from shooters.
Yeah, this is shooting drills that they have to do every, like, so many times a year.
Like we had fire drills.
Yeah, but they still have fire drills.
Okay.
They just also have lockdown drills. Now they have active shooter drills. And the shooter drills are supposed to be like real world, so you don't know if it's you're supposed to, like,
intense.
only the teacher knows that it's not real. I'm like, that's too intense.
Yeah.
Too intense. So what did you know, like, of course they're going to have some anxieties. And they have access to everything happening in the world.
Right.
You had to stay up and watch World News Tonight.
You're right. Yeah.
If you didn't know what was happening. Here, all they got to do is pop on YouTube and they can see whether real or fake.
Or it's force-fed to them.
Or it's force-fed to them.
Yeah.
You see all kinds of crap. Of course they're on anxiety meds.
And that's one of the biggest shifts I think happened to me this past year was like, you always want to be bigger, you want more clients. But like at the point, when does that stop?
If you don't balance it, it doesn't stop.
That's what I'm saying. Like it wouldn't matter. She's like, you have ADHD. I go, no, I don't. If I need to focus, like I can focus. She goes, that's a symptom. I'm like, what? I was like, are you serious? Somebody asked me, one of my black belts from a long time ago, how do you always have the best people here?